Greetings, true believers. We are here to do a tier list of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Now, I'm sure you're probably thinking, what about the ones that come after Endgame? Well, there may be a few on here, but to be honest, most of them just suck. They're terrible. Marvel has clearly given up on any resemblance of what made the MCU great. So we're gonna rank all the ones on this list. Apparently, somebody put some of the early Spider-Man movies on there, which I guess technically are part of it with the third Spider-Man movie, of course, but we'll go into all of them. Let me know what you think down below, and let's get to the tiers. Of course, we have the best of the best, Stan Lee approved, of course, only for the best for Stan Lee. Near perfect, obviously ones that are just missing that a little bit more, showing signs of greatness, or middle of the road, or movies that show signs that they can be great, or are just early MCU, I suppose. Marvel gave up, just clear in these category. Marvel just gave up and are just throwing ideas at the wall, and they're just not sticking. And Stan Lee rolling in his grave. All these movies in this list are just an affront to Stan Lee and his memory, and should be purged from existence. But let's get into it first with Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'll put in near perfect. It's not my favorite movie in the world, but it's really funny. Of course, Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista, even though he's a dreadful actor, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Vin Diesel as Groot, and Zeldana as Gamora is pretty great. It's a great buddy movie, of course. Lots of good jokes here and there. It's kind of goofy, and to be honest, Ronan the Accuser is a pretty bad villain. He's just all angry and just wants to kill. So it's really not a lot of motivation to his characters. It's kind of there, but the team works really well. They can work great together, and of course they have their squabbles here and there, but they have lots of good laughs, and it's just a fun time. And the soundtrack, of course, is great as well. One of James Gunn's best for sure. We are going to put Avengers Age of Ultron here. I love this movie. I know it's probably the least favorite amongst the Avengers movies for most people out there, but I enjoy it. I love James Spader's Ultron. Such a dry, sarcastic wit. He was perfectly cast as Ultron for sure. Of course, we have new characters like the Vision. Vision is great. Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver, even though he's unceremoniously just off for no reason. Just really no reason for him to die. Lots of good jokes, of course, as always, with the Avengers movies and Marvel's movies in general, putting some genuinely good humor here and there, especially the language joke at the beginning. But you can tell this is where Tony Stark is starting to go a little nuts, just a little bit, starting to be driven a little bit crazy by the visions in his head, and you can see where his mind is going with Civil War shortly down the road. But lots of great fights, especially the one at the end, and the Avengers never should have been blamed for Sokovia. I mean, sure, without the Avengers, Sokovia probably doesn't happen, but if the Avengers are there and Sokovia is dropped from the city, global extinction. So you want heroes to be good and save the world, but when they save the world and there's damage, they have to pay for it. It's like a real catch-22. Do you really want heroes to save the day, or do you just want reason to bitch? But good movie regardless, nonetheless. Ant-Man. Now, to be honest, I'll put this here. I enjoy this movie a lot. It is really funny. It makes me think what the movie would have been like had one director who directed Shaun of the Dead been able to direct this. He was unceremoniously kicked off, and Peyton Reed was put in his place. But what we got is fine. Paul Rudd is good. Ant-Man. Corey Stoll is good as the Yellow Jacket, even though he's just clearly not and just wants to do anything just to gain power. Michael Douglas is good as old Ant-Man. Evangeline Lilly, it's nice to see her career resumed after being thrown into a fake role in the Hobbit movies. But it's a fun movie. The Michael Pena, T.I., and the David Baldaccia, or whatever his name is. Those guys are just annoying. They're just annoying. I mean, they're just a bunch of jokesters. Sure, they have skills, but I just never understood why they're in the movie. Just don't understand their appeal. But some good fight scenes here and there. The CGI is starting to get a little old. You can tell by this point. Not the best Marvel has ever put out there, but there's still signs of good here. It's still a fun movie to watch. Just not as rewatchable as some of the other ones, to be honest. And I really don't like Civil War. And I'll tell you why. I'll put it near perfect because it is a great movie. But in terms of rewatchability, it's just not there. Especially with Tony Stark just going crazy. He's just totally going towards the side of the government, saying we need to be in check. Like, no, you don't. It's a breach of freedom. I'm totally on the Captain America side, even though in real life Chris Evans is opposite of his character in every way. Totally Team Cap in this instance. Some good fights here and there, of course. As always, just feels really long at times. It drags on a little bit, but there is some inherent mystery in there. And Baron Zemo, he's a good villain. I just never understood like this character. I wish it would have been more like Baron Zemo from the comics, but of course we can't get that. But what we got is pretty good, even though I fervently am against Tony Stark's side. And that fight at the airport is great. That's one of the things in this movie that's truly rewatchable. But in the beginning, where the mother comes up to Tony Stark saying like, "Oh, if it wasn't for you, my son will be alive." Well, if Tony Stark hadn't saved it, then billions of other people will be dead as well. So yes, it's sad that her son passed when he was doing volunteer work in Sokovia to help people there. But if the Avengers aren't there to save the people, there's much more death, I suppose. But it's a fun movie regardless. Even though it's not my favorite, I can't put it above the other two just because I'm just not a big fan of it. But it's still technically a good movie. Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange. It's great. One of the most rewatchable movies in the MCU for sure. Benedict Cumberbatch was a perfect choice for Doctor Strange. And the whole who should be the immortal, not the immortal, a Grandmaster. It's like, whatever, who cares? Just change the race. Who cares if it's not an old Asian man? Who cares? It worked out well. The visual effects are pretty good. Chiwetel Ejiofor is good as Mordo, and you feel like he shouldn't have changed sides in the end or just gone off on his own. You kind of feel like his character was just forgotten about after that. Would have expected him to return more. So I know he returns later in the Doctor Strange sequel after Endgame, but I still enjoy this movie a lot. I watch it all. Well, not all the time, but it's one of the more rewatchable movies out there. Mads Mikkelsen is good as a villain. I really wish we could have seen Dormammu for real. I mean, what we saw of Dormammu gives you hope that you can see him in the future, but unfortunately with the way Marvel is these days, they're going to F up Dormammu in the worst way possible, I'm sure. Where's the badass visage of Dormammu with a flame head? He's tall. He's just a menacing motherfucker. Then you just have this huge shape in this movie, but Dormammu still works. Hopefully we get to see him more as a villain in the future, even though I've given up on Marvel, to be honest. Still a great movie, though. I don't really like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It just feels like it meanders a lot. Kurt Russell is cool as Eagle the Living Planet, but it just, you can tell right off the bat it's not going to be as good as the first one. The soundtrack is still great. It's still really good. But when Cole finds out what his father is, you're just like, wow, he's a really bad guy. And there's some nice moments between Yondu and Quill in this movie, because you see that Yondu was actually, in his own way, good, trying to save him from his father, who was just going to use him as a giant battery. when he reveals himself to be bad, he just all those moments where he tries to be a good father and everything are just wasted. To be honest, because it's like, oh, he's just going to use him. The moments between Gamora and her sister are fun. Fighting each other is always fun. I hate how petty the stupid argument between Rocket and Quill is. Them kind of being separated, but when Yondu uses his arrow, it goes all through the camp. Is really fun. It's a fun movie, just not as good as the other ones, and nowhere near as good as the first one. Spider-Man: Homecoming. We'll put that here. It's a good movie still, but the whole bit about slaves building the Washington Monument is just like, why does that need to be in there? Why? You don't even need to say that. Who cares? Okay, it's history. Get over it. And Zendaya's decent as MJ, I guess. It's just why they start the race swap. This is where it starts to go down. I mean, Tom Holland is a decent Spider-Man, but he's nowhere near Tobey Maguire, and probably is better than Andrew Garfield, but at what cost? I mean, I like Michael Keaton as the Vulture, and wish we could have gotten a few more villains in there, but what we got is pretty fine, except the social engineering moments, stupid PC moments, just could have just been left out for sure. Tom Holland has some good superhero moments, and it's cool to see Tony Stark in this. Marissa Tomei is a decent Aunt May, even though she feels a little younger than what we probably would have expected for an Aunt May. She feels like she should have been another 10 years on her, just based on what we got in the original Spider-Man trilogy. But what we got is good. Just, you know what, I'll put it above Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I enjoy it. It's probably like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where it's just not as rewatchable as some of the other ones, but it's still enjoyable nonetheless. Thor Ragnarok, yep, right up there. It's fun, very rewatchable. Hella, Kate Blanchett is perfect as the villain. I love the moment where we see Loki is brought back by Thor, and he's been falling in nothingness for 30 minutes. It's great how Thor is trying to get her photos with everybody, and people keep saying that, oh, what happened to Jane? It's like, really, what happened to Jane? She's just kind of, no, we see her later in other movies. It's just kind of dumb. I love the Grandmaster's planet. I love the fight between Hulk and Thor. It's fun. The Avengers. Going through the Devil's Anus is fun. The Pleasure Palace was like, oh, gross. In that final battle where Thor realizes power and we hear Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, is a great moment. He just starts kicking ass left and right, shooting lightning everywhere. It's a fun time. Valkyrie is dumb, kind of, why they changed her there, but got some good fights in the moment. And then at the end, where we see them confronting Thanos ship in the end credit sequence, is just like, boy, it's going to be a bad day to be an Asgardian on that ship, because no one will survive, or at least very few. But it's a great movie. Taika Waititi made a good movie that he seemingly failed with the next one, but what we got is pretty darn good, and definitely at the top of the list for the MCU. I should put this in Marvel Gave Up, but this movie's not rewatchable at all for me. I've tried to watch it on second viewings, and it's not even good as the first time I watched it. And even then, the first time I watched it, it's so overblown, it's so over dramatic. The effect that people thought this movie had is just dumb. It's just a Marvel movie. It's nothing special. In terms of MCU movies, it's very middle of the road, near mid tier, to be honest. And yeah, I don't have a lot to say about things to say about it. I mean, some of the fights between Black Panther and Killmonger are fun, but to be honest, Killmonger's just Gotta help everybody. Gotta help everybody. Gotta can't be your own nation. Blah blah blah. It's just like ugh. Just stop. Enough. Infinity War is probably gonna be at the top for all of them because I remember seeing this trailer so much. I watched it over and over. And then when the movie finally came out, it exceeded my expectations in every way. It happened exactly as I want. The bad wins. It ends on a cliffhanger. And that's how this movie ended. It ended perfectly. With a movie like Infinity War, then moving into Endgame, it had to end with bad winning. It had to end with good feeling absolutely overpowered by evil, having no way to stop Thanos or Malthus. If you look up the philosopher Malthusian ethics, you'll see how terrible Thanos really is. He is a great villain in this. Yes, he has the ball sack chin or whatever, but he's great. Josh Brolin was a perfect choice as Thanos. He's overpowering. He's just seemingly invincible, and when Peter Quill has a chance to finally remove the gauntlet and then he gives up, he just can't hold his anger and screws everything up. It's like good, bad had to win in this. I like the Black Order edition. I wish we could have seen more of them, but what we got was pretty cool. The fight scenes are epic. We get to see all our favorite characters, and in the end, like I said, bad wins. And bad has to win for the ending to really impact you in a great way. We're going to put Iron Man up there, the one that really started it all. Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane is great. Terrence Howard was good before he went absolutely insane with this fake math movement. Just sets up everything perfectly. Pepper Potts, she's great as well. It's just a really fun time. It's really basic now, considering where the MCU has gone. It feels really basic, but it's still good to come back to see where it started, how self-centered Tony Stark was, and then he realized his mistakes and started out actually help people. Is a great thing to see. But yeah, Iron Man is fantastic. Great way to start the MCU, and we got a banger. Not as good as some of the other ones, but definitely good in its own right. Oh, we still have a lot more left. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm going to put that down right here. Maybe, yeah, both Ant-Mans are pretty interchangeable, to be honest. The second one definitely isn't as good as the first one. It feels more meandering. The ghost villain is just kind of there. I enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp for what it was, but it just feels just not as good as the first one. And even then, the first one wasn't all that great. I feel like Lawrence Fishburne was just kind of thrown in there. I feel like he was meant to have a greater character, but then Scott Lang being kept in under lock and key the whole time just makes it feel weird, and Hope being angry at him the whole time is just like, yeah, what he did was stupid, going to Germany to fight in the airport battle, but it's like get over it. The comedy just isn't as good. The three jokesters are just kind of annoying as always, and really not that great, but there's just still some parts that are good. Walton Goggins' character just feels kind of in there, just thrown in there for no reason. Feels like he shouldn't even be there, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Captain Marvel, clearly Marvel gave up. Just hate this movie. Whenever I go back and watch the MCU in order, I just skip this one. There's no point for it to exist. They could have made it good if they didn't make it woke, but of course they had to do that. Brie Larson is incredibly unlikable, even though she looks like the visage of what modern Captain Marvel should be. Yeah, it's just completely forgettable. And to be honest, it goes there. Yeah. Marvel didn't give up, it just took a giant shit. Endgame is going to go right there. I love the time travel, the concentric nature of all three, of all the scenes working together. Black Widow dying in the end was the right choice. Making her the one to take or die for the Soul Stone was the best move. Going back to all the alternate timelines is great. I love seeing the 5 years later and how everybody's completely devastated, completely just feeling no hope. The whole scene with one of the Russo brothers coming in and crying at the dinner table is just, that's dumb. Don't like that. But when Scott Lang comes out of the van and shows that he can save everybody, it's a cool thing. At the time heist scene, Tony Stark getting to see his father and reassuring that things are going to be okay. It makes you think, if you go back, how this probably really changed Howard Stark in the end. If you consider the time travel canon, it probably really changed Howard Stark and made him the father that he became. And even though he was kind of distant at times, you can tell he really loved his son and that he would do anything for him, which is good to see. Good triumphs over evil, that final battle at the end. Although I must point out that when Captain Lesbian came out of nowhere and blew through Thanos' ship and nearly beat the hell out of Thanos single-handedly, I was about to walk out of the theater. I was about to walk out of the theater. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. After all this, after all the heroes have been in there, all the time that they put on to have a character that had one movie just come out of nowhere, just beat the hell out of Thanos, like, I'm glad when Thanos took off one of the stones to just punch her out and beat the hell out of her. She deserved it, because it's just like, no, you're not doing that. Captain Lesbian is not going to be the one to end Thanos. And the whole all-female Avengers moment was just so dumb. It's so forced. It's just like, no. Nobody wants to see that movie. That movie won't make any money. If you make an all-female Avengers movie, nobody's going to watch it, because it's not about the female male. It's about making a good movie. And when you're more interested in making it an all-female movie than making a good movie, no one's going to see it. It's going to suck. But regardless, Endgame is great. I watch it once or twice a year. It's just always fun to go back to. It's a great time. It brings you all sorts of emotion. After all the movies we've seen, it ends on the absolute perfect note with the death of Tony Stark. Yes, spoilers here, but you've had how many years to watch it, but perfect ending. Couldn't have ended better. Good triumphs over evil, and that's why it's probably not as good as Avengers Infinity War, but it's pretty darn close. Spider-Man, Far Away From Home. I like this movie a lot. Okay, come on. I like this movie a lot. I gotta admit, it's not as watchable or rewatchable, some of them, but it's pretty near close to perfect. Mysterio's a great villain. Jake Gyllenhaal. It's funny seeing Mysterio being good. I mean, he shows his side. He's shown his true colors by the end, but it's nice seeing him as a hero, because every other media we've seen as Mysterio, he's been a bad guy, and there's some real consequences at the end for Peter's actions, and it's just a fun time. I don't really remember all that much, to be honest. I know it's definitely better than the first one, to be honest. It's definitely more grand, more inspiring for what I wanted to be, but I enjoy it still nonetheless. Black Widow. Marvel gave up. And you know why Marvel gave up? They just threw this out in February, and they're just like, here, watch it. This is Black Widow's story. We should have seen this earlier in the MCU. It should have been probably in between Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. That's when it should have been. Of course, they reference socialism being good, but socialism is just like communism basically, and the whole Taskmaster being female is just like why are they swapping it? Basically lessened her character, to be honest, and it's just barely remember it. Marvel just gave up. Shang-Chi, I feel like this movie could have been something, but again, this is after Endgame, and it just feels so thrown in there. If they had added Fin Fang Foom, we got to see a little cameo of him, that was pretty cool, but Fin Fang Foom should have been in it more. I mean, come on, he's one of the coolest Marvel characters we've ever seen. It's just, he's barely in it. It just Wong beats the hell out of him, and he just goes off. It just, I don't understand Shang-Chi as a character. It's just terrible. Simu Liu's a loser as a person. It's just terrible. Stupid beliefs. It's just, yeah, there's just not much to it, to be honest. Spider-Man No Way Home is great. It is a little long, but it is nice to see all these different things happening because Spider-Man can't make up his mind and screwing up Doctor Strange's spell. I like seeing the three Spider-Men come together, even though Tobey Maguire is still clear the best of the three. Nice to see Benedict Cumberbatch. Um, Jamie Foxx as what Electro should have been, and not this blue freak that's charged up. I mean, the Electro that we got in this movie is far better than what we got Amazing Spider-Man 2. Still great, lots of good moments. It's a fun movie, regardless. And it ends off, and it kind of ends off on a cliffhanger. Honestly, I don't know where they're going to go with the next Spider-Man movie if they make one with Tom Holland, but really interesting to see what they do in the future, even though, like I've said before, I've given up on Marvel having any future success. The Incredible Hulk shows signs of greatness. I mean, we'll put that right here. I enjoy it. I know Edward Norton is really hard to work with, and that's why we just got one movie with him, and then they switched to the sad man that is Mark Ruffalo. I think this Incredible Hulk could have worked better in the MCU. I think this Incredible Hulk would have been better in the MCU than the one that we got. I understand why Marvel just couldn't work with him anymore, but it's not as memorable. But I feel like this Hulk could have worked better in the MCU than the one that we got, to be honest. Abomination is good. Emil Hirsch is good as not Emil Hirsch. I can't remember his name. It was out of the actor that played Abomination is really good. It's a good movie. It's just not as memorable. Yeah, just not a big fan of Spider-Man or Iron Man 2. Mickey Rourke is one of the worst villains in history as Whiplash. Justin Hammer. Yeah, I just don't have much to say about Iron Man 2. It's enjoyable for the most part, but it just feels aimless and never really needed to exist, to be honest. The first Thor movie is good, showing signs of greatness for sure. It just kind of feels weird at times. I like The Warriors 3. Loki is good, as expected. Thor realizing that he has to not be selfish is a good thing. He overcomes that. Kenneth Branagh was a good choice to direct. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but it's still fun. Regardless, I enjoy it. I go back to it a decent amount. There's some slower moments, but the big battle scenes are great to watch. And it's another building block into what the MCU became. Yeah, we can do that. But Captain America, the First Avenger, I like it a lot. The Red Skull is great as a villain. Captain America, Chris Evans was perfect as Captain America. I like his character. I like what he fights for. The whole visage of Captain America is iconic in the comic book universe for sure. just a great character. I love it. This is a fun time. It's not as memorable at times. It's really the first one in the timeline, and whenever I rewatch the MCU, this was the first one I turn on. It's enjoyable nonetheless, and when Red Skull gets zapped off into the other side of space is pretty cool. And Captain America does the ultimate good guy thing and brings the ship down. The Avengers. Yeah. Why does this picture say Avengers Assemble? I don't know. It's just the Avengers, but the Avengers is great. I love the team coming together. Loki is a great villain, sarcastic as always. Puny guy, Hulk throwing Loki around. The final battle, the Battle of New York, is great. The nuke scene where Iron Man takes the nuke up into space and then nearly gets kept in space as the portal evaporates. Eric Selwing is great. It's a fun time. Hawkeye just kind of feels kind of aimless in this one. It's nice when he finally becomes good again. And the whole Avengers Assemble moment is an iconic moment in the MCU universe for sure. It's a fun time. One of the most rewatchable ones in the series, to be honest. Iron Man. I shouldn't be putting Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 in there, but they're just, I think Iron Man 3 is a little better than the second one, but it's aimless. Regardless, Aldrich Killian is a good villain, but they just don't do enough with him. Iron Patriot is a cool look. The battle scene at the end is pretty cool. The whole subplot with the kid just feels kind of tacked in. When the scene where the helicopter comes in and blows Tony Stark's house to bits is fun. Wonder Woman coming in and saving the day is stupid. Pepper Potts saving the day with the extremist virus in her is dumb, but still a fun movie. It's just, I don't know, just not a big fan of Iron Man sequels, to be honest. Thor: The Dark World, yeah. I enjoy this movie a decent bit, but again, the villain is Malekith is just forgettable. Christopher Eccleston was very against this movie, having to put all that crap on. He hated it. You can tell in his performance that he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be in the movie, and it's just, you can really tell throughout the movie. It just feels dark, dingy. I mean, it's cool with Loki and Thor working together, but ultimately Loki still kind of stabs Thor in the back and tells Thor to go to Earth while he rules on Asgard. Yeah, it's forgettable in all the worst ways, and even though I enjoy it at times, I just can't say it's really good. But Winter Soldier, on the other hand, is the best Marvel sequel for sure, or definitely up there. Can't put it above Endgame or Infinity War just because those movies are so massive, but Captain America fighting against Hydra is great. Hydra infesting everything and the ships coming together and nearly killing everybody. The ideals that Captain America stood for is great. The whole spy background is great as well. Trying to uncover the mystery of Hydra, trying to uncover the mystery of how Hydra was able to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. They're basically one in the same organization, and that all they really want to do is control. The fact that in this movie, I bet if you ask certain people out there, depending on who they ask, there's a lot of people that would give up their freedoms for security. And to all those who would ever think about doing that, those who would give up freedom for essential liberty or essential liberty for security will get neither. Benjamin Franklin said that, and it's true. Never give up your freedoms for security because you'll get neither. But the Winter Soldier is great. He's mysterious. well, the fight between him and Cap at the end, and the fight where all the ships fire on each other is great. It's a fun time. Rommel is a bastard, and it's just a fun time. One of the best Marvel movies out there for sure. We're going to put Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man up here, shows signs of greatness. We see what it becomes. First Tobey Maguire movie, or Spider-Man movie. Willem Dafoe is the perfect foil as the Green Goblin. He's totally goofy and silly. Kirsten Dunst is great as Mary Jane. Flash Thompson looks like Flash Thompson, not the weird, scrawny Flash Thompson that we get in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie. All the roles are perfect. Harry is great. James Franco's great as Harry. It's just all the characters work so well together. It is really goofy at times, so that's why I'm not going to put it in near perfect, but we see what it can become. Spider-Man 2 is amazing. I love Doc Ock as a villain. You understand where he's coming from, and he's being controlled. You feel bad for him in a way. I like the moments where Spider-Man is no longer Spider-Man anymore, but he realizes he needs to save the day again, and he does. The whole scene where he's trying to stop the train, yes, it's a big CGI mess now, I get it. Watching it again and seeing that, it's like, ooh, that did not age very well, and it really didn't. But it's still fun to go back and see. Again, I really wish we could have seen Connors as a true villain, because the guy that they got to play Kirk Connors in this movie would have looked great as the Lizard. Spider-Man 3 belongs up here too. This movie gets a little too much hate. I know the whole gothy Peter Parker meme is it's kind of hilarious at times, but it's really annoying and it's overblown. Yes, it's a small section of the movie, and to hate on the movie for that much is bad, but I will agree with the haters that Topher Grace was the worst choice to be Venom. Why this guy seems to be in movies that I like all the time just frustrates the hell out of me. I think he's a deplorable actor. He's just terrible. Him as Eddie Brock is just terrible. Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman is pretty cool, even though it's villain. It's kind of forgettable, to be honest, but there's some good fight scenes here and there. The whole, like I said, the whole goth Peter thing is forgettable and skippable, but the rest of the movie is pretty darn good. There's some really touching moments with when the Sandman becomes a Sandman. You feel a little bit emotional. Seeing him, what he's become, and that he can't see his daughter anymore is just really sad. I just, putting both the Amazing Spider-Man movies in here, I never really liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. The first one is probably better than the, okay, we'll put him here at least, but it's just not a big fan of them at all. I know you're probably wondering, like I said at the beginning, you probably could have found a list with more of the old or some of the newer MCU movies, but that would be redundant because they would all go here or here. None of them would be showing signs of greatness or above. They'd all be down here because modern Marvel has become rife with crap. They don't care about making good movies anymore. All they care about is their stupid woke political agenda. They really don't care about making good films anymore. And that's why I'm not gonna bother going over the other ones. The ones who are watch are bad enough, and I wish I didn't have to watch them. I wish I could kind of purge them from my mind, to be honest. But this is my list of the best MCU movies of all time. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.